May I come?
Yes, please.
Fine, sir. Fine, sir. Fine, sir. Fine, sir.
Good evening. Betty. You're Mr. Yasharth Shekhar.
Yes, sir.
So, Yasharth, can we start?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell us something about you.
So, my name is Yasharth Shekhar. I was born in Lucknow, and from there I completed my class 12th from Alma Mater College. And after that, I went to Delhi University to complete my graduation in economics honors from St. Stephen's College, and in 2018. And since then, I've been preparing for civil services.
You completed your graduation in economics.
Yes, sir.
From St. Stephen's. And if the St. Stephen's cannot give confidence to its own graduate to appear in their own subject, who else will?
So actually, when you go to college and when you study economics for graduation, it becomes a lot more mathematical and becomes a little difficult subject to comprehend, especially for an exam like UPSC. So I decided, and while I was in college and I started preparing for UPSC, I found out that geography was a subject was much easier to follow. Therefore, I decided.
You're looking for an easy path then?
So it was easy in terms of clearing examination.
Okay. So the candidates we meet who appear with economics, should I start treating them superior to you?
No, sir.
You just mentioned.
Sir, it's everyone's choice about the subject that they want to appear. If somebody feels very comfortable with the amount of mathematics that is usually employed in economics.
Or is it something that a small town boy coming to Delhi, getting into St. Stephen's, got lost?
No, sir, I really love economics very much, but as a subject, it becomes a little difficult to master, especially for UPSC. It is all about scoring marks. So
okay, let's talk about your alma mater, the St. Stephen's College. Of late, St. Stephen's used to be a college which used to give many civil servants, including diplomats, when it was, say, 20 years ago. But that's no more the case.
Yes, sir.
What went wrong with St. Stephen's, or what went wrong with the UPSC, that now the percentage of candidates coming from your college is not to that extent as it used to be?
Sir, there are many reasons behind that. The first is that in the 1970s, 80s, when our college used to produce so many bureaucrats, after that a number of colleges and institutions have come up. For example, there's also a Shriram College of Commerce. There's
It was always there.
But their level have increased very much. Also, I would say that around my stay in the college, I could say that some level of quantitative decline or qualitative decline in academics I've seen. There are so many protests that keeps on happening in the college, keeps on disturbing studies.
So it's all about at the college level, or something has happened at the UPSC level also, that now no more Stephenians are required?
Sir, UPSC has also changed its parameters on the basis of which it selects candidates. Now a much more divergent understanding of subjects or different subjects are needed to understand. Earlier the case used to be that if you are well versed with one of your optional or other of your optional or one GS, now the spectrum of subjects that you need to master to clear UPSC has increased, and I believe that a lot of people coming from many divergent backgrounds from different parts of the country have been able to clear that margin to clear UPSC in large numbers. And somewhere UPSC...
You have taken geography and you said you liked it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is Middle East, and which countries are called Middle East?
So Middle East is usually a geographical term that was referred to in the United States of America or other Western media as a country which include countries like North Africa, then the proper Middle East like Iran, Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and then in some definitions it also includes Iran.
I believe that internationally speaking, geographically speaking, mentioning direction is such a misnomer. I mean, it cannot be universal. As you said, Middle East is Middle East only to the United States. That's what you're claiming. So, referring it internationally in any direction is confusing, and it should be avoided.
I think, sir, if we come to an international understanding that what we are referring to West is West, or we define...
How can there be a single West to entire globe?
I think there is a common understanding, there's a common perception as to what is West.
That means there is a common understanding that what is center of the world. Do you think that is that an egalitarian way of looking at geography or knowledge?
No, I don't think so, sir. There should not be classifications like that. But at least in the unspoken terms, when we refer to West, we refer to United States of America. We even refer to Europe, which is technically, if we look at on the world map, which is most popular, it is located in the central part of the world. But in our common understanding, all those civilizations which are located to the west of us, we usually refer to them as West, to draw a distinction between them and the Oriental civilizations which are located to the east.
Ultimate question was, do you believe that our knowledge of geography, it's still too colonial?
So
it's too colonial. We are carrying that legacy where the center, as you said, is considered the West or the Europe rather than nowhere.
So I think in some ways it is colonial, because even today the Greenwich Mean Time that we take passes through Greenwich in England. Also, there has been a greater understanding or greater exploration of the countries which are located on the western side. For example, North America. Less understanding has been gone into understanding South America. Even lesser has gone into understanding Africa. Even today, when we talk about Africa, we talk in terms of where mineral resources are located, because this was dictated by the colonial mentality of exploiting resources. In terms of East, even in case of India, we can see that geography has not been one of the greatest subjects that our ancient explorers discovered. And this was more so in case of colonists who tried to build roads and railways taking into account the geography of the country only to exploit resources. So I would say yes, even today we can say that it is dictated by, to some extent, by coloniality.
Fine, Yasharth, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yasharth, you like watching web series, right?
Yes, sir.
Have you watched Mirzapur?
Yes, sir.
Can you identify any positive attributes in the character of Kalin Bhaiya? Although the character is involved in various crime, if you identify.
So one positive attribute that I can identify is a level of confidence that one may have. I know it sounds a bit shaky from somebody who uses violence to spread his fear, but at the end of the day, if we analyze his character, we can see how confident is he in dealing, whether he is dealing with the SP of the police or whether he is dealing with the other people. His confidence creates an environment which is enviable to a certain extent.
Okay. Your optional is geography. Everyone knows about volcano. What is pseudo volcano?
So pseudo volcano. So volcanic features which typically represents what volcano represents. For example, volcano is usually associated with release of magma, lava. So in many parts of the world, there is not actually volcanic activity, but a similar phenomena may be experienced. For example, in case of mud volcanoes, or in case of, so I'm not able to recall the other.
No issue. Can you flash some light on the geopolitical importance of the Indian Ocean?
Yes, sir. Sir, there are many aspects to it. For example, it traverses, it connects three different continents. It connects North Africa through the Pacific Ocean route. It connects Asia to Africa. So in that context, it is also increasingly being explored for mineral resources, especially polymetallic nodules. Also, the geostrategic competition over it between India and China is increasing, as a result of which we see daily visits by Indian foreign minister to Maldives or Sri Lanka. So at the same time, it also lies on the path of the countries which are developing very fast. For example, India. So also one famous geographer, Spikeman, referred to it as a rimland, because he understood that this is going to be the rim around which the entire world is going to revolve in the coming future. So it is very important.
Have you heard about the term called theatre command?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
So theatre command, basically it is about the defense management of the country, that the country may be divided into different theatre commands, a region in which all the resources of army, military or navy forces are commanded by one single officer, so that there is more efficiency in decision taking.
So that's why we have established the post called CDS.
Yes, sir, Chief of Defence Staff.
And how many zones are divided in the theatre command?
So I think there has not been a clarity on the number of zones of command. Some estimates say it is going to be 5, some say it is going to be 7. So I do not know the exact figure.
Which ministry or authority is dealing with it?
So Ministry of Defence.
Okay. And what is hybrid command? China is usually using the hybrid command.
So I am not aware of that.
No issue. Can you comment on the string of pearls policy of China?
So string of pearls is a policy of entanglement or encirclement of Indian Ocean to contain India from exploiting its resources or to build it into an Indian lake, so to say. Under this, China has acquired a port Sudan in Sudan. It is also building a port near Kyokfu in Myanmar. It has acquired the Hambantota port for 99 years lease.
Very good.
It is also developing a port in Bangladesh. Also during Abdullah Yamin's time, it has also got a stronghold in Maldives as well. And recently we saw that when America protested, then UAE decided to remove them from one of its port that was secretly being used by Chinese authorities. So it is a way of expanding their influence in the Indian Ocean by developing a set of port and dependencies so as to contain India.
Can you compare it with the necklace of diamond strategy?
Necklace of diamond?
Yeah. Have you heard about the policy or a strategy called necklace of diamond?
Sir, I am not aware.
No issue. How Mongolia is becoming more important for India as far as strategic relation is concerned?
Sir, I am not aware of it.
Yasharth,
Yes, sir.
you like being on platforms such as Clubhouse,
Yes, sir.
right? So there was some recent controversy over such platforms, how they are helping in spreading misogyny. What was the controversy?
Sir, I'm not aware of this specific controversy.
But such kind of social media platforms, they allow people to say anything to anybody.
Yes, sir.
Now, is that a good thing or something which needs regulation?
So I think there are inbuilt regulations. For example, if there are many closed rooms available, people may utilize that platform, but to curb everyone's freedom of speech and expression, so as to not allow one person to say what may be wrong.
So if I see it, you are wanting to say that even hate speech needs protection.
No, sir, I did not mean that. It's just that it's very difficult to manage that. At the same time, if people are worried about this hate speech being spread, they can go for a closed room where only a certain specific people with certain specific qualifications.
And they can do what they want. Like, for example, let's take the case of Bully Buy app or the Sully deals, right? So if a closed set of people are indulging in these kind of activities, the government should have no business in interfering. Is that what you mean to say?
No, sir. I think government should be able to bring laws on these apps like Bully Buy or Sully deals. But at the same time,
But by their very nature, they will be very close networks. They will not be advertising it to one and all.
So when it comes to these social media, social audio apps, it is very difficult to counter what one person is going to say the very next moment. So when it comes to censoring them, it becomes very difficult. The most that we can do is to follow a certain algorithm or certain practice where certain accounts, if they've
So
been...
if the responsibility has to be fixed, it has to be fixed on the government, the people who are using the network, or the network itself, or the platform.
Sir, I think majorly it should be fixed on the people who are using it. On the network, you may say, but network would say that they are only providing a medium. The misuse is on the people. So I think the onus should be majorly on the people, while the social audio platform should be helping these people to counter such activities.
Right. And if we talk about international relations, then during this second wave of COVID,
Yes, sir.
which was very serious and which caused a lot of challenges in India, so the Indian government actually reversed its policy of not receiving foreign aid. For a long time, we had this policy of not taking foreign aid. Now, what does this indicate? Is it a sign of strength or is it a sign of weakness to open ourselves to foreign aid?
So I think it is a sign of strength to show that when you are vulnerable, you're willing to accept help from the other people, and you're not going to let the common people of India suffer for the sake of your pride.
Okay, and do you think pride was the reason why we were not taking foreign aid for quite some time?
No, I don't think so. Pride was the reason. I think reason was primarily the fact that we were very comfortable in being able to deal with our issues or emergencies, and India has become a very self-sufficient nation in that regard.
Okay, another issue that we have seen in recent times is that India has projected itself, or Indian foreign policy establishment has shown itself to be very not very immune to criticism. So whenever things have been said against India, it has been very quick to take offense. So how much do you think it shows maturity on Indian foreign policy establishment's part?
I think to counter fallacious propaganda in the international media, which might create an impression on the foreign establishments about what India might be doing, is important as far as foreign policy department of the country is concerned. However, in certain regards, our approach might have been more moderated in that regard, I would say. But at the end of the day, a lot depends in foreign media establishment on the perceptions which are being created. So I think Indian government did right in countering those perceptions.
Okay, my final question to you, Yasharth, and this is about the series of abstentions that India did on various UN resolutions, UN and UNSC resolutions on against Russia.
Yes, sir.
Now, do you think it was like a very prudent thing to do by India?
Yes, sir. It was a very prudent thing by India, given that our defense needs depends a lot on Russia, and to a certain extent, the Russian aggression of Ukraine was inspired by NATO's aggression also. Okay, so you are blaming the victim here, but on the other side, now it is almost certain that India is going to face CAATSA sanctions. So I think they may face, but if US looks at the long-term strategic objective with India, I think they would rather avoid with the CAATSA sanctions. And the United Nations knows the importance of India in containing China in Indo-Pacific and the importance of Quad. So I believe that American foreign policy establishment is mature enough to understand India's position on why India decided to abstain. Okay, thank you, Yasharth.
So Yasharth, where did you complete your schooling?
Sir, in Alma Mater College, Lucknow.
Mater. All right. The allegation is these top 5 elite schools in India, the annual fees is equal to what you make as a civil servant possibly in 2 to 3 years. The allegation number 2, which follows from allegation number 1, is that the fallout of all of this is that it ends up creating pompous individuals who are fit to be in iBanking or advocacy or some other cozy parts of Europe, and definitely not as a civil servant. How would you answer to that, both these allegations?
So I think still today a large number of bureaucrats are from these very institutions.
And hence the problem.
But sir, still, if I think it's up to the individual that if he carries out that education from that place and he decides to go for advocacy, he might find his calling in that regard also. But I think we should not restrict him from pursuing his dreams and ambitions.
All right. Since you have done your graduation in economics, of late RBI has been hankering a lot on CRAR. What do you mean by that, apart from the abbreviation?
It's a capital asset to capital.
The R is missing, my friend. So you take capital and do what with it?
Sir,
just think. You use your logic parsimoniously. Capital to risk.
A capital to risk weighted capital.
You have capital and then you have risk.
Weighted asset.
And then you need to weigh your risk with the assets. What is the normal range? What is the happy-go-lucky range which RBI has proposed as regards CRAR is concerned?
So I'm not aware of the exact ratio, but may I?
Please.
It's around 8%.
Yeah, nice guess. Quite close, in fact. As regards geography is concerned, I read a very interesting statement a couple of days back, which says monsoon is nothing but another disturbance. I took offense to that particular statement. Is it correct to state it geographically that all disturbances are actually monsoons and vice versa?
So disturbances is any out of the unusual activity in terms of in geography. It may also be referred to as the low pressure systems that are being developed. So in one sense, saying that monsoon is a kind of disturbance may be right in that regard. So monsoon is actually a disturbance in the distribution of pressure and temperature patterns, which lead to the flow of winds in a certain manner, which bring about rainfall in the country. So
on that note, what is the difference between wind and a storm? Because again, the allegation, or rather the assertion is, disturbance is nothing but a storm. What is the difference between a wind and a storm?
So wind is any horizontal movement of air, may be referred to as wind.
And storm is haywire wind.
Storm refers to a very fast movement of, or a storm is basically, what kind of storm are we talking about? Is it tropical storm or is it temperate storm? Tropical storms are the result of temperature conditions developing in the low latitude regions. and temperate storms are the result of interaction between two different kind of pressure systems leading to development of storms. So in that context, that is a more technical term. Wind is a very generic term that we used.
All right. So your conclusion stands that yes, there are some similarities, but not completely.
Yes, I would say that there are some similarities, but not completely.
All right. Again, two words of late are in a lot of news. Securitization on one hand and amortization on the other. Are there any similarities between the two? What do you mean by securitization of assets?
So securitization of the assets, for example, if I were to issue a loan and if I were to sell those loans, because those loans are going to be returned to me, the interest is going to be returned to me. But suppose if I were to, and these are not assets for me as of now. So if I were to club a number of loans that I've given to the other people, and if I were to sell it to the third party, then that would turn into a security, which will start giving me interest again. So that can be referred to as a security.
What is then the difference between securitization and ensuring a collateral to a loan? Isn't collateral a form of securitization, or two concepts are completely antithetical to each other?
So when we are securitizing, we're actually not leaving collateral with us.
Okay.
We're actually collateralizing the security, and we are actually giving it to the other third party.
So aren't we making it interest bearing?
Yes, sir, we are making it interest bearing, and it leads to increase in risk in the system.
All right. So final question. Is it correct to say that fiscal deficit is always greater than revenue deficit?
So not necessarily.
Not necessarily. It can be vice versa.
So it may be in certain scenarios.
Anyways, in economics, you cannot argue. Everything is maybe. And you're partially right on that, yes.
Yasharth, have you heard about biopiracy?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it?
Ma'am, when the specimens of, let's say, for example, when a local medicine of, let's say, a tribal people is exported to the foreign countries without their intellectual property right, or when...
If it is not exported to foreign country, if it is used commercially within
the country
borders,
without giving them the revenue also,
then it's biopiracy?
It may be referred to as biopiracy.
Okay. The recent amendment bill to Biological Diversity Act actually accuses the bill that it is leading to a scenario of biopiracy in the future. Do you agree?
Ma'am, I'm not aware of the bill, contents of the bill exactly.
You haven't read the bill?
No, ma'am, I haven't read the bill.
Okay, no problem. Again, recently a resolution on climate change was taken up in UNSC, that is United Nations Security Council. Why do you think UNSC is dealing with climate change?
Probably because of the fact that climate change is now having some security implications in the world. It is changing the very nature of what resources are being used. For example, in the Middle East.
To give it more importance, we are taking it to UNSC, the topic more importance?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, climate change.
Or is it to bypass the interest of marginalized and other developing countries? Because in UNSC, certain developed countries hold more power, and whatever decisions they take, the other countries won't have any say in it.
Ma'am, that may be a scenario, but again, a resolution in United Nations Security Council said it would need the approval of all the P5 nations, and all the P5
our resolution also opposed it. I mean, India's stand actually opposed that. Why it's being taken up in UNSC?
Again, the same reason is that India holds that the voices of the developing and the marginalized countries, the African countries, are not being looked into. But if we look at the scenario at the United Nations Security Council, all the P5 members do not have the same view of how climate change is.
Still, they are the biggest emitters, they are biggest polluters. And taking all the decision making into their own hands by giving a slight shift to UNFCCC. It has better mandate, it has better experience in respect to climate change. When we have one council to deal with climate change, why are we bothering UNSC?
Actually, it may be a ploy by certain developed countries, like as you said, to take away the narrative and the initiative from the developing countries. And it may also, there has been issues of funding of United Nations framework for climate change for many years, and these developed countries may be exploiting that, and they're trying to complicate the scenario by taking it there, so that it becomes their sole issue to deal with.
Okay. With respect to climate change, do you think that we are simply, going past the milestones with respect to destinations? Like first it was Kyoto, then it was Paris. Bali, Paris, now Glasgow, but we are not actually achieving anything. It has just become a vacation holiday kind of thing for the people, representatives involved.
I think they have achieved, they may not have been able to achieve what we have desired, but without them, if we look at the situation, it would appear very dire.
What have been the significant achievement in last 5 years with respect to climate change, the things that we promised ourselves in Paris deal?
I think one of the biggest achievement might have been the fact that so many different countries have announced their goals to contain climate change. For example, India recently enhanced its goals in the Glasgow summit that happened. So I think in that regard, and awareness has been created in the countries that countries will have to take the step by itself. Otherwise, we're heading for a doomsday. Also, at the same time, because of the pressure of these different countries and a global consensus that has been created on climate change, IPCC keeps on bringing about different reports from the country that keeps on making us aware about the scenarios that we are in and what steps need to be taken.
Okay. You belong to Uttar Pradesh, and number of places that come into your DAF are like more than 5 different districts or cities, and you are fond of traveling. Can you give me one place to visit in each district where you have been, like Ghaziabad, Banda, Aligarh, Lucknow, Hamirpur? Where should I go in each of these places?
In case of Lucknow, I would say visit my school, Alma Mater College. It's a very old building, one of the oldest school in the country.
When was it established?
It was established in 1845, but the building was built in 1798.
Okay, that's nice to know.
Ma'am, in case of Ghaziabad, I would ask you to visit to Dudheshwar Nath temple. It's a very old and famous temple.
Okay.
In case of Banda, there's also Kalinja Fort, where Sher Shah Suri actually died there. In case of Hamirpur, there's a famous Kalp Vriksh tree, very famous in the region. In case of, ma'am, what is it?
Aligarh?
Ma'am, Aligarh, I haven't been to Aligarh.
You haven't been to Aligarh? Still, if you know, just by your knowledge on traveling?
Ma'am, Aligarh, there are remnants of the old fort of Aligarh. It's not very popular, but there are remnants.
And the fort belonged to?
Ma'am, it was a very old fort built in around 6th, 7th century.
But it would have belonged to somebody, no?
Ma'am, I can't name the exact figure of history.
Okay, Yasharth.
Okay, Yasharth.
Yes, sir.
Yasharth, you're basically from Lucknow, right?
Yes, sir.
And a geography student. Can you just trace the Gomti River for me? From origin to the confluence?
Sir, Gomti River, sir, I will not be able to trace it.
You'll not be able to tell me where it originates, where it ends?
I will not be able to know where it originates. I have a very faint idea about it.
Okay, no problem. For a person from Lucknow, if I have to ask you what represent the Lucknow the best out of the Gomti River, the chicken curry and the Tunde's kebab, what will you choose in which order?
I think, sir, chicken curry, then Gomti, and then Tunde kebab.
Why?
So because chicken curry is part of very old tradition of Lucknow, and relatively it represents a cultural aspect of Lucknow. After that, river Gomti, because it has been part of that geography for a very long period of time, and a number of famous places are also located in that Gomti river. And then Tunde kebab. Tunde kebab is a relatively new phenomena. It was established in the 19th century. So that regard, I would say that.
If I ask you to name 5 languages, Dravidian languages, 5 Dravidian languages which are not in 8th schedule, can you?
No, sir.
1? There cannot be only 4 languages in the Dravidian region.
May I think about it first? For 5 seconds, sir. Sir, I'm not able to recall. I've actually read about one. Yesterday only I've read about one.
Nepali is in the 8th schedule. What is the justification? It's a language of a foreign nation, isn't it?
Actually, sir, the Tarai area of a country, they have significant matrimonial and other relations with the people who live in Nepal, the Madhesis. So in that context, a significant proportion of the population of the country lives in the Tarai region of both India and Bihar. So to give recognition to those people.
Do you think when we talk about the 8th schedule, after the formation of the constitution, it is only the North Indian languages that's been added to 8th schedule? No South Indian language actually made it to the 8th schedule after the constitution was formed. What kind of a hegemony is it?
I think, sir, a lot of emphasis might not have been on the south, because the electoral dominance of the north might have led to this scenario. But I think much more importance needs to be given to the other languages of the south, so that some inclusion, especially there is a demand to include Tulu language in the 8th schedule also, and some other languages.
So now you remember a language which is Dravidian and is not in the 8th schedule?
Yes, sir, now I remember.
Chaliye, what else?
So also there are some demands by certain tribes like Irulas in South India that their languages be included, otherwise their native language is going to get evaporated. So in that regard, I think the government may constitute a committee to look into the demands of the people, especially the languages which are at the extreme risk of being lost.
Fine, Yasharth. Nice talking to you. Your interview is over. You can go now.
Thank you, sir.
Take a seat, Yasharth. Is it going to be your first interview at the UPC?
So second.
What was your score last time?
So 173.
173.
3.
And you missed by how many marks?
The real
Final selection?
13 marks, sir.
And how is your mains this time?
I hope better than last time.
Better than last time. Okay. So, since you already been through MIL, tell me, what is your take on today's performance of yours? Do you believe that it was good, or there are areas you need to work?
I think it was average, and I think there are some areas that I can work on.
Your interview is on 7th.
Yes, sir.
So, our understanding about you is that you're definitely a very good candidate. You have this wonderful personality, and your communication is your strength. You've studied from nice institutions, and it generally reflects in your personality. So that's going to be another plus in general. Talking specifically on the content front, there are only few areas where you need to work. On the communication thing, your entry is good. Sitting posture by and large was good. Your hand movement was restricted in general, which is a good thing. Eye contact was good. Flow was good. Vocabulary was there. So by and large, your verbal, non-verbal communication parameters were good. At a few places, the speed sometimes become a little faster.
Okay, sir.
So that you can work on, because it's not that the voice clarity is an issue. No, that's not the case. You're clearly audible. But your communication, your effectiveness will increase if you slow down at a few places in terms of speed. The volume is fine. Right. On the content front, you have only 2-3 days. Just brush up the economics part. There it appears that maybe you're not that confident. And on the attitudinal thing, some members suggested, and I agree, that you have this tendency of getting into longer arguments sometimes. See, beyond a point, it is never helpful for a candidate to get into argument with the board member, right? Like any smart candidate, try and see what is coming next, right? It's not just the question that is being delivered, that is obviously important, but usually, especially the starting initial questions from the board member are a build-up for something, a major question that's coming up. Sometimes it appears that you are not anticipating well what is coming next. For example, when the last discussion was taking place about the UNSC thing, you should have been in position to see it right before that, okay, this is what is building up. So that is one thing maybe you can work a bit. These things won't require time. I'm suggesting only the thing that will not require time, right? Other things are already in place. I don't see anything, any major hindrance as such. If your mains is good, I don't see anything stopping you, right?
Mains went, I hope it went better than last time.
I'm sure you'll do well. I mean, we are very impressed. I'm very sure that you'll do very good.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you, sir.